Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Myself Daini Thomas, working in AIMS New Delhi. In today's class, we'll be discussing about the cardiac anatomy and physiology. In short, in today's class, I'll be dealing about the cardiac anatomy, physiology, circulatory system, and the conduction system. Okay, so the heart is a hollow muscular organ that is situated in the mediastinum at the level of T5 to T8, and it measures about 300 to 500 grams. Okay, and the size is around 12 centimeter into 9 centimeter into 6 centimeter. Okay, and it has a apex and the base. Base is the portion where the great vessels go outside the heart. Okay, and the apex is the cone shaped portion. Okay, and it is covered by a outer layer that is known as pericardium, that has two layers: outer fibrous pericardium and inner serous pericardium. And the inner serous pericardium is divided into two, that is visceral and parietal layer. Visceral layer is the inner one and parietal is the outer layer. In between these layers there is a space that is known as pericardial space, which is filled with pericardial fluid, and the fluid is around 10 to 25 ml, and some books say that it is around 50 ml. Okay, so that is about the basic. So next let's see the layers of the heart. So there are three layers of the heart. They are outer epicardium, middle myocardium, and inner endocardium. Epicardium, that is the outer layer or outermost layer, that is also known as the visceral pericardium. Okay, that is the part of the heart wall, and myocardium, that is a muscle wall. Okay, and it consists of thick bundles of cardiac muscle, and those muscles are twisted and burled into ring like arrangements. Okay, so that it can contract properly. So they are the muscle layer, and it varies in each chamber. Okay, in right atria it is of 2 mm thickness, and in left atria that is of 3 mm thick, and in right ventricle it is of 3 to 5 mm thick, and left ventricle it is of 12 to 15 mm. Okay, so according to the size of the myocardium, the thickness of the chambers varies. And the inner layer is the endocardium. Okay, and that is a thin sheet of endothelium that lines the heart chambers. Okay, and it is continuous with the arteries and the valves. Okay, so that is about the. So next let's see the cardiac borders. Okay, so the right cardiac border, that is formed by the right atria. Okay, right border is the right atria, and the left border is the left ventricle. Left ventricle. Inferior border is formed by the right ventricle, and the superior border is formed by the atria and the great vessels. The anterior border, that is formed by the right ventricle, and the posterior border is formed by the left atrium and left ventricle. If you look at this picture, that is clear. Just look at this picture. Heart is turned little left and posteriorly. Okay, it is turned little posteriorly and to the left. Okay, that's why the left atrium and left ventricle has gone posteriorly, and the right ventricle has come anteriorly. Okay, so these are the cardiac borders. Next let's see the heart valves. So the fibrous skeleton of the heart, that has four valves. So those are two atrioventricular valves that are situated between the atria and ventricles, and two semilunar valves that are between the ventricles and the great arteries. Okay, so the mitral valve, that is between left atria and left ventricle, and tricuspid valve is between right atria and right ventricle. As the name itself suggests, bicuspid or mitral valve has two cusps, and it looks like a bishop's mitre. And the tricuspid valve has three cusps, and that is little bigger than the mitral valve. Okay, and the semilunar valves, as the name suggests, it looks like half moon and it has 3 cusps. Okay, so both aortic valve and pulmonic valve has 3 cusps. And these semilunar valves are situated between ventricles and great arteries. Aortic valve is between left atria and aorta, and pulmonic valve is between right ventricle and pulmonary artery. Okay, these are about the 4 valves. And if you see the valve anatomy, you can see that there are cusps of the valves, and there are small muscle-like projections inside the ventricles, and these muscles are connected to the valve leaflets by means of thread-like fibers. Okay, these fibers are known as chordae tendineae, and those muscles are known as papillary muscles. Since mitral valve has got 2 cusps, left ventricle has 2 papillary muscle, and since tricuspid valve has got 3 cusps, there are 3 papillary muscle in the right ventricle. Okay, but there are no papillary muscles or chordae tendineae attached to the aortic and pulmonic valve. Next, let's see about the physiology of heart. Okay, so cardiac muscles have got 5 characteristics. First is automaticity. Automaticity, that is the ability to initiate an impulse. Okay, so that is also known as chronotropic effect. Okay, chronotropism. If the muscle is able to initiate an impulse, that is known as chronotropism. And second characteristic is excitability, and the ability to respond to an electrical impulse is known as excitability. If an impulse is given to a cardiac cell, the cell should get excited, or there should be a action potential difference inside that. So that is known as excitability. And third characteristic is known as conductivity. If the impulse is conducted from one cell to another cell, that is known as conductivity or dromotropism. Dromotropism. And fourth characteristic is the contractility. When a cell receives an impulse from other cell, it gets contracted. Okay, or it starts contracting. So that is known as contractility or ionotropism. And the fifth characteristic is the refractoriness. Refractoriness means the cell will not get excited, or it will not respond to all the impulses during systole. Whenever the heart is contracting, if some external impulse is coming, it will not get excited. That is known as refractoriness. So these are the properties of cardiac cells. There are few terms that you have to know. First is stroke volume. Stroke volume, that is the amount of blood that is ejected from the ventricles during each contraction. Okay, the ventricle receives blood from the atria, and that blood is ejected out to the great arteries during ventricular systole. And the amount of blood that is ejected during each contraction is known as stroke volume, and the amount of blood that is ejected in 1 minute is known as cardiac output. Okay, and the ventricle contracts and it ejects some amount of blood to the ventricles, but the whole blood in the ventricle is not ejected out to the great arteries. So the percentage of blood that is ejected out from the ventricles during ventricular systole is known as ejection fraction, and that is around, normal EF is around 55 to 80%. Okay, and some amount of blood remains inside the heart, that is known as end systolic volume. The amount of blood that remains inside the heart after the systole is known as end systolic volume, and the amount of blood that remains inside the ventricle before the ventricular systole or during after the ventricular diastole, that is known as end diastolic volume, and that is 120 to 150 ml, and stroke volume is around 70 ml. So next, let's see the cardiac cycle. What is meant by each phases. Okay, so there are 7 phases. They are atrial contraction, isovolumetric contraction, rapid ejection, reduced ejection, isovolumetric relaxation, rapid filling, and reduced filling. Okay, so these are in first phase, that is atrial contraction. What happens is atria will contract and blood is ejected into the ventricles. Okay, 70% of the blood in the atria goes to ventricles without any contraction. Okay, and only 30% of the blood passes to the ventricles by atrial contraction. That atrial contraction is also known as atrial kick. Okay, and the second phase is isovolumetric contraction. After the atrial contraction, what happens is the atrioventricular valves, that is the mitral and tricuspid valve, will close, and aortic and semilunar pulmonic valve is already closed. So that time what happens? The pressure gets increased inside the ventricle. So that is known as isovolumetric contraction. There is no change in the size of the muscles, but there is increase in the pressure. The volume is same, but there is no change in the size of the muscle. Okay, so that is known as isovolumetric contraction. So phase 3 is rapid ejection. So because of the higher pressure that is inside the ventricle, once the semilunar valves open, there is rapid ejection of the blood into the great arteries. That is the phase 3. Okay. And phase 4 is the once the pressure gets relieved a little bit, there is reduced ejection. The ejection or the amount of blood that is ejected will reduce. The pressure gets reduced for the ejection, that is known as reduced ejection. Next, what happens is after the blood goes to the arteries, great arteries, the semilunar valves will close, and atrioventricular valves are already closed. So the ventricle is in the relaxation stage or diastole. This phase is known as isovolumetric relaxation. So the amount of blood inside the ventricles at that time is end systolic volume, and the period is known as isovolumetric relaxation. Next, what happens is the atrioventricular valves will open, and there is a rapid filling from the atria to the ventricles. Okay, the 70% of the blood gets filled to the ventricles. Then comes the reduced filling. After the rapid filling of the ventricles, the rest of the 30% of blood in the atria gets filled in the ventricles by atrial kick. Okay, so these are the cardiac cycle. In short, there is atrial systole. After that, there is atrial diastole. During the atrial diastole, ventricular diastole is also happening. Okay, and during the ventricular diastole, what happens is sorry, sorry. Atria, first the atria will contract or atrial systole is happening, and during that time ventricle is in the diastolic stage, and after that what happens is ventricular diastole will finish and ventricular systole will start. Okay, so the total time duration of cardiac cycle is 0.8 seconds. One cardiac cycle duration is of 0.8 seconds. Okay, and the systole is of 0.3 seconds and the diastole is of 0.5 seconds. Okay, next let's see the circulatory system of the heart. Okay, the circulatory system, it consists of coronary arteries. Okay, the circulatory system of heart is known as the coronary circulation, and from the aorta, okay, from the aorta there are just above the aortic valve there are two arteries arising from the aortic sinus. Okay, and these arteries are known as right coronary artery and left coronary artery. And the right coronary artery goes to the right through the atrioventricular sulcus. Okay, the sulcus is between atria and ventricles. The right coronary artery passes through the right coronary atrioventricular sulcus or coronary sulcus, and it divides into two. At the side, right margin, it divides into right marginal artery, and the second portion goes behind, and it supplies to the posterior part of the ventricles. Okay, that artery is known as posterior descending artery. Okay, so the right coronary artery traverses through the atrioventricular sulcus or coronary sulcus, and when it reaches the right border, it divides into two. The first artery is the right marginal artery that supplies the right ventricular border, and the one artery goes behind and it supplies both ventricles. That artery is known as posterior descending artery or PDA. Likewise, in the left side, the left main coronary artery that is arising from the aortic sinus divides into two. Okay, the first branch is left anterior descending artery, the one that is coming to the anterior portion of the left ventricle. So that is known as left anterior descending or LAD. And the second branch is left circumflex artery that goes to the left side and to the posterior, left and posterior. So the left circumflex artery goes behind and it meets the posterior descending artery. Okay, and the left anterior descending artery comes down to the anterior portion. Okay, so it has also diagonal branches and obtuse marginal branches in the left lateral side. Okay, so these are the branches, and according to the artery that supplies the posterior wall of the ventricles, the person is told to have right dominant artery or left dominant circulation. Okay, if the posterior descending artery is supplying the posterior wall, then we call it as a right dominant circulation, and if the left circumflex artery is supplying the posterior walls, we call it as left dominant circulation. And most of the people have right coronary artery supplying the SA node and AV node. So in case of right coronary artery occlusion, there is chance of developing arrhythmias. Okay, and also conduction blocks. Okay, because that supplies the AV node and SA node. Next is about the venous drainage. So the venous blood from the heart is drained into the right atrium through the coronary sinus, and that is formed by anterior cardiac veins, the Vatian veins. Okay, and the coronary sinus is the principal vein of the heart, and majority of the venous blood from the walls of the heart is drained into the right atrium via the coronary sinus, and that is the largest vein of the heart. Okay, and that is located in the posterior part of the atrioventricular groove. Okay, posterior part of the atrioventricular groove. Okay, so the coronary sinus gets blood from where all? From the great cardiac veins, middle cardiac veins, small cardiac veins, posterior cardiac vein of the left ventricle, oblique vein of the left atrium, or otherwise it is also known as the vein of Marshall, and right marginal vein as well as left marginal vein. Okay, so these are the branches of that supplies to the coronary sinus. So all these drains into the right atria through coronary sinus. Okay. Next is, let's see the conduction system. So the conduction system of the heart, that is the electrical conduction system, is the branch, or they are the specialized muscle cells found in the heart and that send the signal that is produced in the SA node or sinoatrial node to the ventricles till the ventricular muscles. Okay, so the sinoatrial node that is situated in the right atria near to the SVC, and that is connected to the AV node through three internodal tracts. Okay, anterior, middle, and posterior internodal tract, and one branch that goes to the left atria is known as the Bachmann's bundle, and the AV node is situated in the inferior portion of the interatrial septum. Okay, between the atria we have interatrial septum. So the in the inferior portion or in the atrioventricular junction we have AV node. SA node is near to the SVC in the RA, and AV node is in the interatrial septum near to the AV junction, and from the AV node it goes down through the interventricular septum. That portion is known as the bundle of His, and it divides into two, right bundle branch and left bundle branch. Okay, so the portion of the AV node is known as Koch's triangle. Okay, the area where the AV node situates, that is known as Koch's triangle, and the branches of bundle of His, they are known as right and left bundle, or otherwise known as Tavara branches. Okay, so the left bundle then divides into two smaller branches, that is known as left anterior fascicle and left posterior fascicle, and finally those branches divides into small fiber like thin fiber like projections in the ventricles. They are known as Purkinje fibers. So this is about the conduction system. Okay, so SA node, internodal tracts, AV node, bundle of His, then the right and left bundle branches, and the Purkinje fibers. Finally, the ventricular muscles are reached. Okay, so this is the way by which the impulse that is generated in the SA node reaches the ventricles. Okay, so the rate at which the SA node fires is around 60 to 100, and AV node it fires around 40 to 60, and the ventricles fire at a rate of less than 40. Okay, less than 40 is the rate of ventricles. So when the SA node is not producing the impulse, then AV node takes over, and when it is not working, then the lower portions will take over. Okay, when there is a blockage in the conduction system in this pathway, then it can lead to heart blocks. Okay, so this is about the conduction system. So hope you are clear with the basic anatomy and physiology. The rest of the action potential will be dealt in the next class, and these are my references. Thank you so much for your patient listening, and hope you had a great learning, and we'll deal about the rest of the part of physiology in the coming classes. uh, Thank you, and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thank you.